Okay, changing the subject. This is a bit like solving equations, except you won't get an answer at the end. You won't get x equals something, as in x equals a number. In this case, they ask for make t the subject of the following formula. So what we need to get is, just like we have x equals in equations, in this case we need to get t equals. It won't equal a number, okay, because we've got another letter here, q, but we will get t equals. Let me show you how to do it. So to get t equals, we need to get t on its own. The first thing I would do, this plus 6, take it over the other side. So I have q minus 6, okay. Q minus 6 equals then the 5t. I've almost got t on my own as it is. I've just got 5t here now. Obviously 5t means 5 times t. So to get t on its own, because we're timesing by 5, if we take the 5 over the other side, we can then divide. But you need to divide the whole thing by 5. So there's our answer. We have t as the subject. You can rewrite it then like this. So we have t as the subject of the formula, and this is our answer here. Second one, make c the subject of the formula. Now, just like solving equations, okay, you know, I would look about expanding this bracket first. So we have 2c minus t equals 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 times c is minus 4c. Okay, sometimes in the bracket there. Now, just like when we're finding x in an equation, we need to get the x's onto one side, and the same here, we're looking to get c equals, so this minus 4c, we take it over the other side. And of course, because it's a minus 4c, when I take it over, it becomes a plus 2c, plus 4c. Okay, so the sign will change when I take it over. We do the opposite. It goes from minus 4c to plus 4c. We're left with 20 on this side. And of course, not forgetting this minus t, we can bring that over the other side. Minus t, then bring it over, becomes a plus t. What's good about this is, this simplifies. That becomes 6c. And then, just like the last one, we've got 6c. So to get c on its own, we do just like we did last time. We're timesing here, so we take the 6 over and divide. There's our answer. We've made c the subject of the formula. Okay, question 3. In this case, we need to make n equals. Okay, now here we've got a square root. Okay, and everything has been square rooted on this side. Now, if everything is under that square root, the first thing you need to do is to get rid of that square root. So take the square root over the other side. Now remember, when we take things over the other side, we always do the opposite. So if we take the square root over, the opposite on the other side then, we'd be squaring, okay? So we'd be doing m squared, because of course the opposite of square rooting is squaring. So you take the square root over and you square the m. We just left then with the 3n plus 4p, with the square root gone. Again now, have in mind what we want to work out n. So 3n will equal m squared minus 4p. Okay, we just taken that 4p over. Last step then, n will equal m squared minus 4p. We get rid of that 3, of course, take it over and divide. Okay, next one, we need to make y the subject. Okay, now if you notice carefully here, we've got y squared. So in a moment, we'll have to think about taking that square over. Okay. But before we even touch that square there, before we take that over, we need to deal with this minus t here, because this is on its own, and that's easy to deal with, isn't it? So I'm gonna keep it as y squared, but that minus t, I can easily deal with it. All I've got to do, of course, is take it over the other side, and it becomes a plus t. Okay? And then y squared equals g plus t. Now the square, if I take that over, don't forget now I've got to do the opposite. And as we just saw in the last one, of course the opposite of squaring then will be square rooting. So we need to square root everything. Okay, so there's our answer. We've got y as the subject. Okay, next one, it looks much more complicated, but actually it's really straightforward. Okay, and just use the rules that you've learned about algebra. We want to get y equals, because that was what the question 4 said, if you remember. Okay, this is part B to question 4, and it said make y the subject. So we need to make y the subject here. Okay, now you've got all of this here on the bottom, and all of the top, 3y plus w, is dividing by all of this here. Now what I would do, because we're dividing everything here by this, I would take this over the other side. Now just have a think what happens when you take this over the other side. Of course, we're dividing by 2y plus 3. So when I take it over, I do the opposite. And of course the opposite will be timesing. Okay, so you're going from dividing to timesing. So if I times the 5 by 2y plus 3, I can use a bracket to show that. And left then on this side with just 3y plus w. And then we have a similar situation to what we just saw earlier. So we have then 3y plus w, multiply that bracket out, so that's 10y when you times that, and that's 15 when you times that. Now I need to get the y's together. Now let's be careful here now, because if we get the y's on one side, for instance, if I take this 10y over, okay, it might be quite difficult if I'm not careful in how I do it. Just think, if I take that 10y over, it'll become a minus 10y. I'd end up with having 3y minus 10y. That, of course, would give me a negative answer, which will make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this 3y over that side. So I'll end up having 10y. I'll leave the 10y where it is. That 3y, if I take it over, it becomes minus 3y. Okay? On this side then, I've got w, I'm left with w, but what I'll do is this 15 I'll bring over this side. So plus 15, if I take it over, it becomes minus 15. Okay? Now I've got w minus 15. Of course this simplifies. 10 take away 3 is 7y. And then, just as we've seen before, you just need to divide by 7 and you get your y. Okay, so we've got y as the subject. And there's our answer. So y will equal w minus 15 over 7. Okay, the last one I've got here says make h the subject. Okay, now it's a bit complicated the way it looks here. To get h equals, we're going to have to do a bit of work. But the first thing I hope is obvious to you, right, is this plus g here. Well, we can get that over the other side, can't we? We can say p minus g. We can just take it over. Because by taking that over the other side, you're left then with not much over here. You just have 3h over f. Okay. Now I want to get h. So just if we notice here, we're dividing by f. Okay, we're dividing by f. Well, let's get rid of this f. Because we're dividing by it, take it over and times. So if we take it over and times, we've got to times all of this by f. So we end up having that. And then f bracket p minus g equals 3h. So to get h then, to get h equals, of course, we just simply take that 3 down and divide, and you've got your h. Okay, so that can be rewritten as this, and you can leave it like that. Okay, you can leave it in the bracket and you've finished.